Yeah, I tell you what, I was just about to do that in the
Oh,
summer.
okay. All right. All right.
So our intention is to follow the CIAC guidelines. If the CIAC and the state allows fall athletics to go forward, which I will be completely honest, is very much is in question. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I you know, if the CIAC goes forward and allows fall sports to happen, we would know by next week. If we go forward with sports, we would begin conditioning on Monday, August 24th, and have conditioning in cohorts of 15 kids, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. That, of course, is for boys and girls soccer and cross country. The current guidelines would allow us to begin practices on the 27th. So we would do that. We would, again, have boys and girls soccer and cross country conditioning on the 24th, 25th, and 26th in groups of 15, and we would then begin full practices, again in groups of 15, on the 27th. So that's the update. Chris, did I get all those dates correct?
Yes. And then, did you say the games?
I haven't said games yet. That's just
Okay. Yeah, that's all we need to know. Games would be the 24th and scrimmages the 18th. But let's focus on, just getting them out there and getting them conditioned first.
Any questions for Chris?
I thought I read that the football has already been put off until the spring. Is that right in Connecticut?
So those are articles that have been put out. We have not received official word as of yet. But usually some of those sources are pretty accurate, but there's no official word on that.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I'll push this forward. If there's any other questions, certainly we'll keep you posted on athletics. Just to give everybody who's watching a heads up, the live stream is now up and going. So if you're not able to join the Zoom, you can watch this on the live stream on YouTube. Thank you, Dylan, for getting that up and going for us.
Charles, how do people get to the live stream on YouTube? Do you happen to know is there a link from our CT Schools website?
It is. Yep.
And then if people have a question during public comment and they're on the YouTube, is there a way that they can get the question to us?
Dylan, you were able to curate those, he's hearing us, when we did the Zoom town halls. Can you just text me and let me know if you can curate any questions that come in over YouTube? I'll let you know.
Back to the sports thing quickly. I guess we'll wait and see what the CIAC decides, and you're saying that our district will plan to follow those guidelines. I just want to express some concerns that we're having this conversation before we've decided how and if we're returning students to school. And to me, it's a little bit incongruous to be thinking about additional cohorts of students when we haven't figured out how we're going to safely cohort our students in school in a way that keeps our students and staff safe. I'm struggling with that a little bit.
I think it's fair to say that is the struggle. I've been on numerous Zoom conversations with the Hartford area superintendents and the Shoreline area superintendents, and what you just said came out in every one of those meetings, which is it wise for us to have different bubbles of students, different cohorts of students, if our goal is to have students in school? And would athletics potentially put at greater risk our ability to have students in person in school? I think that came across very clearly in all the conversations I've had with superintendents. And I suspect that if the superintendents had a vote on this, they would recommend not to run fall sports as a general consensus. That's what my powers of inference tell me based on those conversations. But I think there's also a prevailing sense that it is a CIAC-based discussion, and the conferences or the state would have to, make that ultimate determination.
As opposed to the school district?
We would reserve the right to not participate. I think that we're waiting for guidance from the CIAC.
to the school district? As opposed to,
We would reserve the right to.
anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I just think that athletics are really important. It's important that kids have been cooped up, and if, you know, clearly it is two conversations, and
Anybody else have
knowing
any
what the
thoughts about that?
CIAC is planning to do is going to shape what we're going to do.
Athletics are really important. It's important that kids have been cooped up, and if, you know, clearly it's
Any-
knowing what the CIAC is planning to do is.
Okay, I guess we'll wait, see what we hear. Business and financial affairs update.
Can you guys unmute Stephanie Fregol? So we included with the board packet, the report that I like, which is you can see the running tallies both in terms of the percent encumbered, the percent remaining, and then the amounts still budgeted. So that is included, and that is through Thursday, August 7th. Stephanie is with us. She can talk you through where we are and answer any questions that you have about our authorized spending report. So that is included, and that is through Thursday. Stephanie, are you there?
Working on unmuting her.
Oh, okay. Get her? Stephanie, you're unmuted. Are you able to join us? Well, I can answer questions too while we're working on getting Stephanie to chime in. Do you have any questions about the spending report that I shared with you?
Just, Charles, so the spending report, this is from our regular budget. It doesn't include any funds that we anticipate getting as reimbursement at this
Right.
point, does it?
Yeah, this is our spending report. This is the LEA budget. So this is our currently budgeted amount. This doesn't include grants or CARES Act money or other funding sources that might become available. This is strictly
Right.
what.
Thank you.
But does it include any of the COVID-related expenses that we've incurred? I mean, are we anywhere over where you anticipated we would be at this point in the year?
Yeah, and that's why I wish Stephanie would speak up, because she could tell you exactly what she's doing. I just texted her too. So we are keeping close track of COVID-related expenses. Yes, this does reflect the COVID expenses because we are paying for those now. We hope to get additional reimbursement. We did hear, again, at a press conference from the governor that additional funds are becoming available. We haven't received an official communication on how much or how we would go about accessing those funds. But what you see in this funding report does reflect COVID-related expenses, and we are keeping a careful budget on what those expenses are.
Where would we find them in here?
You wouldn't see them laid out here. I can get those for you, or
So, I mean, they would be in the different items, right?
you wouldn't see them laid out here.
The purchase professional, technical.
They would show up in different places. Primarily right now, the expenses would show up in things like the materials for the desks that we've built, the fans that we're purchasing, the duct cleaning that we're doing, the installation of electrical that we have to do in order to have the fans installed. So they would show up in different areas of the budget.
Supplies or?
I'm sorry.
Oh, there's Stephanie. All right, good.
Sorry. I have a sick dog and I was letting him out. I'm sorry.
So the question I was just asking Charles was, where would we find the expenses in this report where we're a little bit beyond where you would anticipate we would be at this point in the year? And if you could maybe explain to us why that is, if it's related to COVID or?
Right now, we've been charging everything under the facilities account, but in supplies 62011 or 61011. It won't look too off because we're so early in the budget, and since we put the freeze on, there isn't much out there right now. So if you look, it's towards the bottom of the page. The year-to-date encumbrance. 38,957. A lot of the PPE is in there. The wood that we use to make the desk, the plexiglass. So I'm trying to keep it all in one account so we can just move it when we can, when we get the funding. Other than that, we haven't done any of the other items that we're doing for the CARES Act. So I know the summer is going on right now. So once payroll goes through, those will show. I'm having Jen, our payroll girl, put everything to the temporary payroll account, 12,000. So that line will be showing that those charges in there, but they haven't happened yet.
I'm sorry, what charges are in the temporary payroll? That's
where the CARES Act, the money that we're using the CARES Act for all the writing for the hybrid plan, for the teachers, is all going to be charged to the 12000 account. And I'm just trying to keep it all together so I know when I can move it, it's all there.
So are you able to tell us, Stephanie, I mean, it looks like, as I read these numbers, we only have the year-to-date %, the last column. Is that what's left?
That's what's left, yes.
Okay, so we only have...
We've encumbered and or spent 10% of the budget so far.
Okay, so, and in supplies we've spent, we only have 46.9% left.
Correct, because a lot of the supplies for the COVID are in there.
Half our supply budget for the year has been spent in August 11th.
Right.
So if we are reimbursed for that, does that go back into that line item? How does that work?
I'm not sure about that.
Somehow.
Well, I know we have the CARES Act money, which is for the curriculum writing, and I know that an email came out that there is about, I think, 160 million that's going to be for education, and everybody's trying to figure out how that's going to come about to all the districts, probably the same way as the CARES Act money. I don't know how they're going to allocate that, but we do know there is going to be more coming, hopefully. The state put out a survey that we had to put in for how much expenses we spent on top of our regular budget last year and what we need to do for hybrid this year, hoping maybe they are going to have some money. So we're trying every avenue we can to find money to help pay for this. But as of right now, we have to kind of put it as a wash against ours until we have definitive answers. Even for the FEMA, the town's going to pay for the FEMA reimbursement, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it all. We probably will, for the desk materials and anything above and beyond the PPE, like the air conditioners. Are they going to do that? I don't know. It's not the $10,000 AC unit we have to put in. They probably won't do that. So there's certain things that they won't, but they should.
Right. And what we've done is we are keeping close track of what is specifically related to our reopening plans. Now, we also may have other areas of funding that become available. For example, if fall sports don't run, that may open up other, opportunities to reallocate funding from athletics. I also anticipate that maybe even next time I check my inbox, we're going to be getting communication from the state about these additional, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 166 million that the governor said would be coming so that we could open schools. So I'm confident that more revenue streams are going to become available, but in preparation for that, Stephanie and I have frozen the budget. We have made clear to all of our departments that you must prioritize your spending and only bring us things that are absolutely essential must-haves, and anything that can wait until we have a clearer sense of what the budget picture looks like, we would buy later. It's not great, but I think it's a prudent first step to make sure that we build a firewall against the premiums that we're going to experience.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any questions on that? Lauren?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Stephanie.
Sorry I was late.
Okay.
Hope your dog is better.
Director of Student Services report. We have Dawn Davis. Hi, Dawn. You're being unmuted.
There we
you
go. Hi, everybody. Stephanie, I hope your dog is better. We don't need more stuff like that going on. I just wanted to give everybody an update on student services across the district and how we're looking through our reopening plan and the status of things. There's a lot of exciting things that are going on right now, so just wanted to give an update. As you know, I'm working with the rest of the reopening committee, looking at all areas, but right now this is going to focus on services. We are fully staffed with all our programs, with the exception of the new resignations that Dr. Britton read earlier, and we have interviews ongoing this week with my fellow administrators and some other volunteers from the teaching community. So we're optimistic that we'll be able to move to be back to being fully staffed. I have been meeting with the principals as we get the results back from the parent surveys to know what students are going to require distance learning instruction as well as in person, and depending on the model that we go with as a district, making sure that we are staffed appropriately for that. And we're in a good place, and especially as far as paraeducators and our related services people, we're going to be, I think we're going to be very comfortable there, as comfortable as we can be in this wildly chaotic environment. Just so people know, we do have two related services people that are going to be replaced for the time being with contract service providers. We have a speech pathologist that had a baby last week, and she's going to be home with her baby for a little while, so we will be contracting with the substitute to a specialized service. Our ESS service doesn't have speech paths or other specialized folks like that in their sub-service. So we're looking forward to bringing that person on board. And in addition, our physical therapist has recently resigned, and she's retired, and she was a contractor with the district, and we're going to be moving forward to use a contractor again. Our physical therapy needs in the district are very small, and Donna Sawaki did a beautiful job. We'll miss her, but we're moving forward with another contract to make sure we begin those services as quickly as possible as we begin the new school year. All of our special programs are ready to accept students as soon as we devise our plan and firm up our plan for students to return. We're all very excited to have kids be getting their special ed programming in person to the greatest extent possible. That includes our ABA lab at Valley View, the RISE program at Gildersleeve, the Bridge program, that's our therapeutic day program at Brownstone, Wheeler Clinic, and our Life Skills program. So all of those programs are ready to be up and moving. Many of our new staff have been participating this week with with Eric and doing the summer curriculum writing, so they're getting right in on the ground floor. And our next step, once we decide as a district what we're going to be doing for a reopening plan, the next step then is to work closely with our staff and our families to individualize programming for our special needs students. And one of the things that we're really going to have to focus is to take a lot of our energies over the next couple of weeks is focusing on that group of students that have really high needs. They require somebody working very close proximity with them, or part of their plan is hand-over-hand support, things that we can't apply that 6-foot boundary to, and what that's going to look like. So there's special training that's going to have to be provided to the staff that work with the students, and some more specific PPE. I know Stephanie and I have talked with you about that in the past, you know, face masks, or face shields in addition to a face mask for really close work and other things like that. So that's going to be a good part of the month of August for us. Our students that receive their education in an outplacement or a RESC program or even another LEA like East Hampton. Those programs are also getting their reopening plans to us for approval so that those students can resume their programming, hopefully as much as possible in person. And then the last thing I want to talk about just for a moment is the social emotional needs. And we've been talking about that really since March 12th, about what impact that this whole event has had on our community, our students, our staff, our families. And we're continuing to work with Mari Wrightington. We met with her again yesterday to plan some of our opening day activities to focus on what the trauma-informed programming looks like for the whole district, good self-care for the adults in our educational setting, and then, of course, the impact that things are having on the kids. And we will, we'll be bringing that to play as part of our opening day activities, or our opening activities for the school year for staff development. So there's lots of busy activity going on. We are having good productive days with all of our staff. I feel like 2/3 of our teaching staff and paraeducators, everybody's working through August because there's so much to get going to reopen. But it's an exciting time, and there's a lot of energy going forward into all of this. So if there's any questions, I'm here.
Anybody have any questions for Dawn?
All right. I'll be here for the rest of the meeting, so thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Okay, new business. CSDE ED 099 Agreement for Child Nutrition Program Signature Change Form.
Yeah, this
Very
is an
exciting.
easy one. We just need a board vote authorizing the district to change the signature on our child nutrition programs from Philip O'Reilly to me. It's pretty easy. I'm attesting to these things in terms of our reimbursements and our ability to be compliant with the Department of Agriculture and Child Nutrition Program. So we just need, as part of their paperwork, a board vote, and then I need Sharon to sign the form authorizing my signature on the forms and replacing Philip O'Reilly's.
Actually, I think it calls for Meg, the secretary's signature.
All right.
Yeah, either one of us can sign it. I'll make a motion that we approve the CSDE ED 099 agreement for the Child Nutrition Program signature change from Philip O'Reilly to Charles Britton.
For a second. Laurel? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. As I see the form, it looks like Stephanie, Charles, and you, Meg, as secretary of the board.
Okay, I'll stop by and put my name on it.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Without further ado, we'll just start our discussion of the 2020-21 school district reopening plan.
Okay. All right. So let me start with some of the health data from our child. So I received just today, literally this afternoon, I really appreciate Ross getting it to me so quick. He was on vacation and I asked him for this so I could update you tonight. We do have the latest health data from our district. For the month of July, there were 959 tests conducted in the town of Portland. The positivity rate was 1%. For the month of August to date, there have been 283 tests for COVID. Of those 283, 0.7% have come back positive. For all of the Chatham Health District towns, which include Colchester, East Hampton, Hebron, Marlborough, and Portland, in the month of July, there were 5,537 tests, and 0.5% of those came back positive. And in August to date, there have been 1,349 tests, and the positivity rate is 0.1%. So good news there, the numbers are low. The numbers aren't zero, which we all want them to be. COVID isn't gone, but the numbers are low and would certainly be below the thresholds that we would need to consider in terms of our deliberations about opening school for in-person. So based on these numbers, I think we can, within the guidelines, move forward with a discussion about reopening schools on September 1st for in-person teaching and learning. The question then, of course, becomes whether we go fully in-person or whether we open schools in a hybrid model. And the hybrid model, again, is half the students would be in 2 days a week, half would be remote learning, 1 day a week would be remote learning, and then the other 2 days, the other half of the students would be in, and half the students would be remote learning. So before I share some other, well, let me stop there. Any questions about the health data from the Chatham Health District? So for the board and for anybody watching, I post these in the reopening information on the website so you can see the data, and it's updated weekly. All right. Literally, it's amazing to me. Before I came to this meeting tonight, I received another addendum to the Adapt, Advance, Achieve state reopening plan. I will put this in the Dropbox. I literally just printed it off on my way out the door because it hit my inbox late. To kind of frame this presentation of that, I just want to put your mind in the right place in terms of what we're allowed to consider per our state guidelines. So what I have are some frequently asked questions. I took a look at them, and two jumped off the page at me as appropriate to our considerations for tonight. So I'll just share them with you and what the feedback from the Connecticut State Department of Education is. So the question on this document is, what does the school district need to provide the Connecticut State Department of Education to support the use of a hybrid model? As school districts shift in and out of different models, is there an expectation that the Connecticut State Department of Education be notified every time they pivot models? If we begin with hybrid, but have decided to change the hybrid model, i.e. days in the building, days remote, do we need to send updated plans to the State Department of Education? The answer to that question from the State Department is, superintendents have been given the flexibility to choose whether they will offer a full in-person model in the fall or a hybrid model, and have been asked via a survey which they intend to start with. So the important part of that response from that answer from the State Department is superintendents have been given the flexibility to choose whether they will often offer full in-person or hybrid. That's the important piece of information as I see it. The second question that is important for our deliberations, the question is, who is responsible for the development and submission of the plans and the decision for a district to decide to provide full in-person or hybrid learning? Is it the superintendent or local board of education? Will this be publicly communicated? The answer from the Connecticut State Department of Education is, superintendents, in consultation with their communities and their local boards, should make operational decisions after taking into consideration their unique communities and facilities. Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, CABE, is aware of this position and has communicated it to their members in previous forums. There may be implementation decisions that do not require local Board of Education approval. The local boards may also need to revise existing policies consistent with the needs of local school districts during the pandemic. The way I interpret that is that, according to this, it is a superintendent decision about whether to open, but that decision must be made in consultation with the Board of Education and with the input from the community. So I'm glad that that says that, because I hope that that's what we're doing right now, and certainly I have lots of input from the community to share with them. Any questions so far?
So just, if I understand, so there's no need for the board to vote on a plan. You decide the plan based on your consultation with us, and and what the community has responded as well.
That's the way I read the answer, yes. Would I like a vote? I think that I would like a vote. I would like at least input and feedback on my thinkings now about how we can and should safely reopen schools. I am prepared after I share some data with you to make a recommendation.
Charles, will you be asking for feedback from us tonight?
Did I say that one more time?
Will you be asking for feedback from us tonight as a board?
Yes, please. Because we have an enormous amount of planning to do, and complete transparency, we've already begun that planning as of Monday with some professional development that we started with our teachers Monday, continued today, and will continue tomorrow. We have an enormous amount of program work to do. All right, so I shared with you, I posted it in Dropbox, and I emailed it to you tonight, a variety of data sources. Let me go through these with you one by one and answer any questions that you have about them, because they have absolutely informed my thinking about the recommendation that I'm going to share with you tonight. So we surveyed our faculty and staff in July to gather initial impressions, and we surveyed them again in August to move away from impressions to gather intentions. So I want to share with you first the feedback that we have received from our teachers, our certified faculty. That is document 1. I titled it Results from August Teacher Survey. So the first question we asked our educators is if they themselves are in a high-risk category, or if they are the primary caregiver for somebody in a high-risk category. Those are people that, if they, God forbid, acquired COVID-19, would be at far greater risk of bad outcomes than healthy people, right? And those are the folks that we need to make sure that we protect the maximum extent possible. That's the first piece of survey data that you received. 121 of our educators indicated that they are not in a high-risk category. 7 indicated that they are in a high-risk category for reasons related to their personal health. 4 of our educators indicated that they are a primary caregiver for somebody in a high-risk category. And then I gave the option of saying, would you like to talk to me, Charles, about your situation, just to make me aware of what's happening? So I finished all but probably 3 or 4 of those phone calls tonight. At this point, we have 10 teachers who are either in a high-risk category or are caring for someone in a high-risk category. And those are the teachers who we're going to do our best to match up with our families that are receiving the distance learning program, and they would work remotely, provide the academic support to those students and families that choose online learning. So I'm probably going to use 3 terms, online learning, remote learning, and distance learning, interchangeably tonight. I see them as synonymous. So I'm talking about the same things if I say online. Just want to make sure I've got the vocabulary. The second thing we asked our certified teachers is, and this is really important, if the district you reside in opens in a distance learning format or a hybrid format, and your personal children were home, would you have child care responsibility? Right? So this hits home for me. I have 2 young children. You've met them. They go to Frankfurt Public Schools. Wallingford has not made a decision yet. If they make a decision, my wife and I will have to arrange for child care for the days, particularly my 4th grader is home. So Jenny and I are scrambling to find a nanny, and we've actually found a really good one, and we're lucky. But that's a real problem, a real challenge that our faculty and staff is going to face. So we asked that question. We have 10 teachers who have indicated that they have school-age children and are now working to find childcare but haven't secured it yet. So that's something I'm aware of, you know, that those 10 teachers merit our consideration and are actively looking for childcare. I have provided those educators resources from the state. They've opened a 211 line and a 1-800 line for teachers to call that will hook teachers up with qualified daycare. And we're hoping and expecting that those 10 teachers will be able to find the care for their children if the districts they reside in open in a hybrid model. And then the last question we asked our teachers was, if we got to a point where we opened in person, would you be more comfortable and prefer opening in a hybrid model, or would you prefer to fully reopen? In response to that, 64.1% of the teachers responded that they would be most comfortable opening in a hybrid model. 35.9% of teachers indicated that they would be comfortable opening fully in person. So 91 teachers said hybrid, 51 teachers said full. Any questions? Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
assume this means you fully explained what the hybrid model was to these teachers so they had an informed decision rather than just a gut feeling?
So the teachers were provided the reopening plan. The teachers were represented on the reopening committee, and many of our teachers participated in the Zoom town halls that we held. I'm confident that the teachers made an informed decision, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions about our certified faculty? Okay, the second piece of data I want to share with you is feedback from our non-certified faculty. So these would be our paraprofessionals. I'll do paraprofessionals first, and then I'll do our administrative assistants second. So same thing with our paraprofessionals. I queried about high-risk status and about childcare needs. Of our paraprofessionals, we now have one paraprofessional who has identified as in a high-risk category, and we have one paraprofessional who is really struggling right now with childcare, and that's kind of where we are with paraprofessionals. So one paraprofessional high risk, one paraprofessional struggling with childcare. I also asked the paraprofessionals the same question about if they would prefer the hybrid or the full reopening. Again, the numbers are almost exactly the same as the teachers. 63.3% of the paraprofessionals indicated that they preferred the hybrid, and 36.7% preferred the full. So 19 of our paraprofessionals prefer the hybrid, 11 would prefer the full reopening. And the last group, a very important group, of course, is our administrative assistants. Same questions. So for our administrative assistants, none of our administrative assistants are struggling with childcare. We do have one of our administrative assistants who is in the high-risk category and would need remote work. Same question for the administrative assistants who, as you know, work closely with the public day in and day out about their preference for the full or the hybrid reopening. 85% of the paraprofessionals prefer hybrid reopening, 14% would prefer a full reopening. So 14 of our administrative assistants trending towards hybrid, 14.4 or 3 of our administrative assistants trending towards reopening. So those are the results from our certified and non-certified faculty and staff. Any questions so far?
And the hybrid timing was also explained that you're looking at through just October through Columbus Day?
Okay, I'm sorry, you broke up a little on me. Can you say that one more time, Dave?
And the timing was also laid out, the fact that you're looking at hybrid just through Columbus Day?
I didn't put in the survey, to be completely honest, I didn't put a an end date for the hybrid. I didn't say through Columbus Day or Election Day or September or the first week. I just said full reopening or hybrid. You know, I didn't put a date, an end date on it, on the survey, to be completely honest, no.
Okay, some people are probably going to assume that we're going to be through Christmas on hybrid, and that's not your intention.
Right. I didn't, you know, when I designed the survey, I wasn't at that time thinking of any end date. So yeah, it was open-ended for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I also shared with you, and this was document 4, our family survey. So as you know, in July, we asked parents to give us some feedback on their intentions. We asked roughly the same questions in the August survey, but we removed any opportunity for parents to be uncertain. We needed a decision from our parents in terms of their intentions to return and what their needs are from us. So what's really interesting is the survey I shared with you today at 1:43 had 1,090 responses. The survey I have in front of me now has 1,171, right? So what's happening now is we gave our parents until noon yesterday to complete the survey. We ran the numbers at noon, and our administrative assistants are now calling all day yesterday from noon on and today any parents who didn't reply to the survey and entering the survey data for them. We need 100% of our parents' feedback because that's what we're going to use to build our schedules and class lists. So we still have about 200 parents to get in touch with. I expect that we'll have 100% unless people are on vacation or not answering their phones by Wednesday. By Thursday this week. So we're working hard to get feedback from all of our parents. So I'll give you the updated numbers with the 1,171 responses. The first question we asked was, will you be requesting distance learning? Are you returning in person, or will you request the distance learning program? 81% of our parents indicated that they would return for in-person learning. 18.7% of our parents have requested distance learning. As of now, that's 219 children who will be distance learning and 952 children who will be returning for either full or in-person, depending on how this meeting shakes out. The second question we asked was, if you are not returning in person, do you want to participate in our distance learning program? 98% of the parents that said they were not returning would like to participate in the distance learning program. So that's 2-point-something% are going to withdraw their children from school and pursue homeschooling or I'm not sure what other things they have in mind, but it's either distance learning or withdrawal from school. So 2% of our parents would withdraw, 98% of our parents who are requesting distance learning would like distance learning. Okay. Next question we asked was about transportation. Not surprisingly, 60.9% of our parents indicated that they will transport their kids to school this year. So that is, so far, 713 parents are saying they don't need transportation to or from school. So 39.1% are going to be using the transportation for either to or from or both to and from school this year. Next question, we asked if parents were able, we reminded parents that we would be requiring masks this year. We asked parents if they would be providing masks for their children or would expect the school to provide masks. 89.7% of our parents indicated that they will provide masks for their children. 10% of our parents indicated that they would expect the school to provide masks for our children, which is important for us to know because we have to buy the PPE and be prepared to satisfy that need. The next question we asked, more good news here, is if parents have stable internet connection in their home. aside from last week's storm and power outages, we asked parents, do you have stable internet access in your home? 98% of our parents responded that they do, and 2% of our parents responded that they do not have stable internet access. We will identify who those 24 families are, and we will provide them hotspots or internet access so that if we ever went to distance learning, and of course we started in a hybrid, they would be able to participate in the remote learning. The next question we asked parents was, this year, kids are not going to be allowed to share materials. So no sharing pens or pencils or paper or scissors or any materials. No sharing instructional materials at all. So we asked our parents, would you parents be able to provide your children general instructional supplies, pens, pencils, folders, rulers, scissors, markers, that type of thing? Or would you expect the school to provide those? We did ask that question. 94.7% of our parents indicated that their children would be coming to school with those materials, and 5% of our parents indicated that we would need to provide that. So that's helpful to have that. We know who those children are. We will provide the packets of instructional materials so that they have them, and then they won't have to share materials in the classroom. And then the last question, this was the big one. So our Zoom town halls last week, despite the power outages and the need to reschedule, were very well attended. And the questions that were asked at those Zoom town halls I thought were thoughtful and excellent. And I also think, and I know they're on, I want to give a shout out to our building principals who were just spot on in terms of the answers that they gave and the ability to respond with specifics to parents' questions and give parents the information they need to make their decisions. So between releasing the reopening plan, the podcast that I did, and the Zoom town halls, I'm hopeful that parents had all of the information that they needed to make an informed decision about coming back in person or staying remote, and answer a question about if they would prefer a reopening in a hybrid or in a full reopening. So this is literally right down the middle. As of right now, with 170 up to responses, one just came in, 50.2% or 589 of our parents indicated they would prefer the hybrid reopening, and 49.8% of our parents, or 583, indicated that they would prefer a full reopening. I also took a look at the comments. There were at least a dozen comments in there that suggested that parents would send their children back to school in a hybrid reopening, but on the survey, they chose distance learning, right? So I'm a parent, I said, I'm gonna have my children distance learn. I wrote a comment that said, if you opened in hybrid, I would send my child back for in-person learning. I saw several comments, I think up to a dozen or so. I have to go back and count them, up to 1,171. I looked at all of them. But I'm thinking that of those 219 parents who indicated that they would prefer distance learning, I'm going to say a percentage of them, I don't want to give you the exact number, up to 10, 12, would change that decision if it were a hybrid reopening, but would choose the distance learning if it were a full reopening. So I hope I was clear on that. Let me go full stop there and ask if there's any questions about the survey results from our families, faculty, or staff.
Just on the last comment that you made, Charles,
Mm-hmm.
When you say 10 or 12, is that percent or
No,
kids?
And number.
Number. 10 or 12 students
There were 10 or 12
or
comments.
families? I mean, I'm confused between if we're talking about a family, which could be more than one kid, or are we talking about individual kids?
I can't tell you exactly. All I can say is there are 1,171 responses. Parents were given the option in the end to write comments.
Mm-hmm.
In a quick look at these comments, I saw 8 to 10 or so, and I don't have the exact number, parents saying that I chose distance, But if you open in hybrid, I would reconsider whether I send my kids back in person.
I have a question about the parents who are responding. Does that include the open choice families from Hartford?
Yes, I can't break them out for you though. I haven't done that level of detailed analysis yet. We will do that, but the survey went out over our school messenger, and the Hartford families are part of the school messenger.
Okay. And then the other question is, how many open choice kids are coming into kindergarten this year? Do we know that number? And that's just a curiosity more than anything.
Is Jessica Bruin on? Can you tell me that? No. Okay, I can get that for you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. It won't change the result of your survey.
Okay. Were there any other questions about the survey data? All right, so let me share with you some additional information that I've found helpful, and have been in countless hours of Zoom meetings with principals across the state. So I shared with you, this was document 5, data we received from CREC, and this data, it wasn't all the states, but they put a survey out and asked districts what their hybrid model was. This number 5, it's the Excel-looking document. It didn't ask if they were opening in hybrid. It just asked what the hybrid model that they were going for was. The majority of these are the hybrid model that we're leaning towards, which is the AA, Distance Learning Day, BB model. Right? That's the one that especially the shoreline districts are gravitating towards. And I would say that that is reflected in, at this point, a slim majority, if not a majority of districts are trending towards the AA day off BB model, right? And the reason for that primarily is that by doing that, that day off provides the opportunity to clean and sanitize the buildings between cohorts, which adds that added level of virus containment. So again, it's not the best in terms of teaching and learning, but none of this is. But it is the best hybrid model if your ultimate goal is to stop the spread of COVID-19. So that was document 5 that I provided.
Charles, can I ask a quick question about this document? At least one other district is doing, instead of an AA day off BB, they're doing a weekly rotation where they've got Group A in school for a week and then Group B in school the following week. And I've had a few parents reaching out with concerns about how unsettling it could be for kids to be in school for 2 days and then off for 3 and then a weekend and then back on. Could you just address what the pros or cons would be for the weekly rotation?
Yeah, I think that's West Hartford. I think that was the one that you described there about having one cohort.
Farmington might be doing a weekly rotation. I don't remember.
Yeah, so it was all kids in 1 week and then all kids remote learning. That half the kids in 1 week, half the kids remote learning, half the kids in another week, the other half remote learning. I've seen that one, and then I've seen the straight AB right? So, there are different ways to skin the cat, and all of them have pros and cons, right? All of them have their pluses and minuses. To be completely honest, I think the AA day off BB creates a consistency. It gives our teachers the chance to see every child every week, right? It's not perfect, but I think it is better than the whole week off, full week on approach. And that comes after looking at a lot of these models, having a lot of conversations with superintendents and the leadership team. I think it just creates more consistency and allows us to follow the pacing of our curriculum a little bit more effectively.
Thank you.
All right, so the 6th document I shared with you. So this was a survey that was done early last week by the Hartford area superintendents. And this comes with a catch, right? A lot of the districts have not announced their decision yet, including Portland. So this doesn't represent everybody. I imagine that, like us, most districts are having this very conversation with their boards of education tonight. It also, the second catch on this is that a lot of these districts have said, this is what we think we're doing, but we reserve the right to change our mind, right? So, I think a lot of people are very anxious and being very careful about these decisions, and I wouldn't look at this feedback and say that's what they're definitely doing. So, for example, and I'm just picking one, East Haddam says they're going full in. If tomorrow we hear East Haddam isn't going full in, and Charles told me last night that they were, just know that this is a very fluid document and it is likely to change. So, what you have here from the Hartford area superintendents is a breakdown of, at the time the survey was administered last week, district intentions with respect to going hybrid or full in person. Clearly, I think what you see here is districts are trending towards the hybrid reopening, especially those districts with a high school, right? So, the big elephant in the room of all of this is the high school level. It is impossible, not impossible, but difficult and not practical to cohort students at the high school level. So I would say that what you're seeing is, especially in districts that are comprehensive K-12, is a strong trend towards the hybrid approach versus the full reopening. So I shared those results with you. They're not conclusive and definitely subject to change.
I had a question about that survey. What does it mean when they talk about using a regional approach? Are those schools that are in a regional school district? Is that what that is referring to?
Yeah, I think what that was talking about is, for example, the AA day off, not day off, I don't want to call it that. That's not what it is. The AA distance learning day, BB approach, is a hybrid approach that the shoreline region is gravitating towards. So what the question there was getting at is, when you designed your hybrid model, did you collaborate with the districts around you to come up with that common model?
Okay.
And the answer at the shoreline is yes, and Portland is also kind of, in terms of our hybrid model, hopping on that bandwagon. Okay, so now the big one. So I shared with you in document 7 an overview of, if we were to open in a hybrid model, what the calendar would look like. So I think you'll hear from me shortly that if we are to open in hybrid, my recommendation will be to open in a hybrid until Columbus Day weekend and give us the first 6 weeks of school to study how well this goes, keep an eye on the infection rates, see what happens when all the college kids come back to town, and be mindful of the Chatham Health District data. If we did that, we would open school on Tuesday, September 1st with cohort or group A. Wednesday, September 2nd would be group A again. Thursday, September 3rd would be a distance learning day. And Friday, September 4th would be group B. We would then have Labor Day weekend. And then the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend would be group B again. After the Labor Day weekend, that would then put us on a common schedule for the balance of September and the first weeks of October, where group A came to school on Thursday, Friday, group B came to school on Monday, Tuesday, and every Wednesday in September and the first 2 weeks of October would be the distance learning day. So I shared that calendar with you if we get to the point where we're opening in a hybrid model from September 1st to Friday, October 9th, which would be, I would say, checkpoint 1 in terms of whether we made a decision to go back fully in person.
Can I ask about this calendar real quick? I'm just looking at the calendar, and the first, I understand once you hit your stride, I get the pattern, but for the first 2 weeks, it's a little confusing, and I'm wondering why you wouldn't just eliminate the distance learning day from those first 2 weeks.
So you mean because the distance learning day during the first week is a Thursday?
Just have Group A, Tuesday, Wednesday, Group B, Thursday, Friday. Group A, Tuesday, Wednesday, Group B, Thursday, Friday, and then go up to the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right. So the answer to that is that the value in the distance learning day separating the two cohorts or two groups of students is that it creates that, 24-hour period where the buildings are empty, which allows us to clean in between the two cohorts. So if we didn't have that day, cohort A would be coming in the day after first cohort. So
Right.
again, the real point of the AA day, distance learning day, BB approach is that distance learning day and then the weekend that buffers gives us distance between the cohorts and time between the cohorts, and that time would be used by our custodial and maintenance faculty to clean.
Yep, I get that. Yeah, thank you. I do get that. I was just wondering if there's a way to streamline for the first 2 weeks so that it's a little, so that kids are coming back to slightly more regular schedule as opposed to this sort of.
Yeah, no, I hear you. This is not a normal schedule for sure. It's definitely different. Challenge.
So, assuming, let's say if this hybrid model is adopted, what happens after Columbus Day?
A good question. My recommendation, I'm looking at the calendar, would be, I guess, that would get us to some point around September 30th, the last week of September. I can tell you exactly. So, yeah, the week of September 28th, I think I would be will be watching the numbers very closely, being aware of how well things are going in the school, and be prepared after Columbus Day to make a recommendation that we all come back in person or that we stay in the hybrid. This, of course, assumes that numbers don't spike up and we go to distance.
Right.
Completely.
So the families, the district would be informed of what happens after Columbus Day, the last week in September?
I think so, yeah. That's the plan.
So Charles, I'm sure you've talked to other districts. Is that what they're thinking as well? Do a month-to-month decision-making process, or are they going for longer periods of time in one model before they change to a different model?
Are you talking about different other districts?
Yeah. I mean, is that the standard? As every month they're going to look at it, decide whether they're going to change or not? Or some saying, hey, unless the numbers change, we're going to be hybrid through a trimester or through half a year or whatever.
Yeah, from what I've heard, again, and it varies by district, a lot of districts are saying, look, instead of doing this week by week or 2 week period, let's look to a natural break in our cycle, which is Columbus. Let's consider that. Now, some districts have said through election day.
Yeah.
The majority, I think, are saying, hey, let's buy ourselves September and the first week of October. Let's identify the long weekend break as Columbus Day, notify our families about how well it's going and what our intentions are after Columbus Day. Then we can plan our curriculum, plan our schedules, let our families know that, as you're planning daycare and organizing your family lives, that Columbus Day we would be in hybrid at minimum until then. And I think the feedback, the sense I got is that would be even easier to manage than a sort of week by week decision.
Yeah, you can never do it week by week.
Oh, no.
So, all right. So I want to preface this by saying that I am very mindful of the numbers you shared with us about the strong teacher, the 64, 65% preference amongst our teaching staff and our paraprofessionals to come back to school in a hybrid model. I am feeling some real concerns about our hybrid model. I'm concerned that the idea of the hybrid model is to create a safer environment and to reduce risk of transmission for our students and our teachers. But I'm worried about, all of our families in district who have two working parents, who are part of a single family, a single parent household, who will be in other kinds of childcare arrangements on the 3 days a week that they're not in school, with grandparents, with neighbors, with friends, in group childcare situations, with a babysitter or a nanny. There's so many, it seems that we're increasing the number of potential places for transmission of infection, and that then our teachers are continuing to see every single child over the course of the week. So I guess I'm questioning whether it is as safe as we're hoping that it will be. And I think that in addition, it's creating a huge problem for a lot of families. And so I'll leave it there. I'm feeling some doubts about the hybrid model right now and about whether it will actually do what we hope for it to do.
I have to say that I agree. I mean, I have all the same concerns. I know that teachers, I feel like it has this like false sense of security of feeling safer when teachers are seeing half of the group at once and then the other half. But the reality is they're still seeing the same exact kids over the course of the week. So the teachers are still having the same exposure. And so our kids are only getting high quality instruction 2 days a week. And then all of them are distance learning on a day. And then the other 2 days they're getting, even though I know we're going to do a much better job with distance learning this time than we did in the spring, there's just no way that distance learning is going to pass the same, it's not going to be nearly as good as in person. And I have a lot of concerns about the childcare for others. I do see the merits of going hybrid for high school. But to me, at the lower levels, when the kids are going to need childcare outside of school, I just don't see how it's actually going to be safer for the younger kids, for the teachers of the younger kids even.
Hey, Charles, just a couple of things I'll say. I thought it was interesting when you showed that of the other school districts, that some of them are going in person in some grades and hybrid in some others. Even Glastonbury K-6 is doing all in person, but in the middle and high school is doing hybrid, which would make sense because it's easier to do it at that level. So I don't know if that's something we've considered. Number one, I'm going to piggyback on the previous comments as well. I've always thought that the way the hybrid model was laid out is very confusing to switch from one to the other. And I was always a proponent that we should let's just try it from day one, go with if we keep the numbers low, we're good. Maybe we need to hire more cleaning staff at night so they can do a better job of the in-class or shift hours to that. I don't know, but I'm just very nervous because I see, we got 50-50 on the parents' percentages. So, you can go either way, and then you got 64-35 of the teachers, and and it's Kansas City. I'm a numbers guy, so I can see those numbers are kind of consistent amongst everybody. That it's teetering on the line where it could go either way. To be honest with you, and everybody has concerns. So there's no probably right answer. There's no perfect way, and it's just going to have to pick the course of least problems, whatever. And I just feel that going the hybrid initially and then pivoting in October to in person is just going to add a level of confusion on my part.
And because, add one more thought to that, because there's no way that everybody in our district is going to be happy with whatever decision you make as our superintendent. In fact, it seems there's no way that any decision you make will make most people happy. It's just impossible right now. This is not an easy decision, and there's no way that any of us are going to feel good about it. But because of that, it seems to me that the only way to make this decision is by the numbers. Is it safe for our students and teachers to return to school or not? And if it's not, let's not send anybody back to school. But if it is safe, if the numbers from the Department of Public Health and the Chatham Health District indicate that it's safe, then let's do it implementing the ways that they, the things that they need us to implement in order to continue keeping schools safe. And we're doing that with our plan, cohorting and masks and social distancing. And if we're able to do those things and the numbers say it's safe, then to me, the best decision is made based on those numbers and not based on our general feelings of uncomfortableness, because this is all very uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable to me that we could be really strongly considering a hybrid model and athletics. To me, if we really want to keep people safe, why are we going to put them on sports fields also? I just feel like the numbers from our health district suggest, by the guidance that was finally put out by the state, that we are safe to fully reopen.
Well, I think that I think the hybrid model is basically the safer model, because you are basically separating the student body into 50-50 cohorts. You know, a classroom of 20 kids will be 10 and 10, for instance. And those children, you put 20 kids together for 4 or 5 days a week, and you are now inviting more infection possibilities than you are by having 10 kids 2 days a week with a break in between and 2 days again. So I disagree that
You're seeing infection within that cohort itself.
Just in general, and you've got the exposure of kids going to daycare or grandmas or to all the other places. I think that you run the risk of higher infection rate when you put all kids together in school at the same time. So I like the hybrid model from the standpoint that we have been having a low infection rate in Connecticut, but we also have a lot of people coming back into the state to attend colleges. We've also had a lot of people traveling. Massachusetts and Rhode Island both are now quarantining people coming in from out of state. So, you know, we're living in paradise, but it could be that we're not living in paradise come September the 1st or September the 10th. And I like the idea that teachers will have that day in the middle, and potentially, you know, we're going to have to do some assessments. We're going to have to do some baseline things as the kids come back. I kind of like the hybrid model for the first 6 weeks of school, and I think teachers support it, and I'm concerned about their health and the risks that they are also facing. So I think it is a difficult decision to make, but I like the hybrid model for the first 6 weeks.
No, I think at the reopening committee this morning, a lot of the discussion about some of the advantages of the hybrid model are to kind of acclimate everybody to the new procedures that are going to have to be in place, to wearing masks, to the distancing, and all of those kinds of things. That it would be a more conservative way to start the year. That there was some concern expressed about whether the district would have sufficient resources to support all the kids if they started at the same time, based on the assumption that many are going to be coming in with some trauma-based issues. And is the schools going to be prepared to handle that full boat of kids on you know, at the same time? Whereas if it was the hybrid approach, it would allow everyone an opportunity to kind of get used to the new normal in the schools, and then hopefully be able to transition to a full regular school day.
Sharon, can I just interrupt for just a second? We are getting so many comments in the chat box. I find it really distracting, and I feel like the folks who are on the meeting are kind of using it as a form of public commentary. If you could just address that real quick.
You can close it on your screen.
Well, it keeps popping up, so.
Yeah, ignore it.
I'm trying.
Well, and hopefully we're not getting cell phone calls or text messages either.
Getting those too.
Well, that becomes an issue, but that's another issue for another day.
Well, like we said, it's a 50-50. So if we say hybrid, 50% of the people are going to say they didn't want that. If we say in person, the other 50% are going to say they didn't want that. So you're never going to make everyone happy. So it's just a matter of which one's going to be the best to implement in the short term.
Well, I think that we also owe it to those who are going to be responsible for implementing whatever happens, some some say in this process, and that's why I was going over the comments from the reopening committee this morning, and I think, Charles, you could add to that as well. But you know, many of the there were representatives from each of the unions. Each, as we already went over the numbers, most supported the hybrid approach.
Did they give reasons why? Because it's
Yeah.
going to change on October 12th.
What?
Did they give a reason why they favored that?
They did, a number of different reasons, some of which I've already said, in terms of getting everybody kind of on board with new procedures that are going to be in place. We'll see if there's any changes that need to be made to the procedures that have been included in the reopening plan. Feel free to jump in.
If I could jump in.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that if you want to see it, I really do think in terms of primary source documents, these should be archived somewhere in the Smithsonian, because whatever the equivalent of Smithsonian for Portland is. It's impressive what the reopening committee has done since June 9th, right? So at the very beginning of this, we put together, picture now, a committee with our school nurses. A school nurse was on it, our representative to the Chatham Health District, Carl, our facilities, Linda from facilities, Dawn, 2 principals, presidents of each of the collective bargaining units, para secretaries. A brilliant young student was on this committee.
That's right.
Parents were on this committee. All of the things that you're now agonizing over and talking about now, we've been wrestling with this massive decision for 2 months now. My goodness, we've been going at it, and it really did culminate this morning with what I thought was a heart-wrenching and agonizing conversation. I mean, you could hear people struggling with this, and everything you just said, considering the challenges families face at home with childcare, the challenges families face at home with taking care of loved ones who are not well 100%, our own personal challenges with health and well-being in our houses. These were, and balancing that against the universal desire that we all want to be back. We want to be back, and we don't want to wear masks, and we want to hug our kids, and we all want to be getting together on the carpet for story time with kids literally on top of each other. We wrestled with this. We've been absolutely agonizing with this. And I also want to tell you, concurrent with that, I have had countless conversations with teachers and deep discussions with all of the building principals and the entire leadership team. We've agonized over this. It is the universal consensus. It is the recommendations from all but one person on the reopening committee that we open in hybrid, and 100% of your leadership team recommends that we open in hybrid. And the recommendation is that we open in hybrid is because that gives us the best chance to stay together, right? That if we open fully and kids get sick, we're going to distance. Our best chance to fight the virus is to keep small groups of kids together and separate them. So if we want to maximize the opportunity to continue to enjoy each other's company, this is what we have to do, because it gives us the best chance to stay open. And that's why it's my recommendation. It is my recommendation that we open in hybrid, we fight this virus, we keep Connecticut's numbers low, we get to Columbus Day, and we revisit this decision.
Yeah. I have to say too that, you know, listening to all of this, and Lauren and Laurel had some good points. And I, you know, 2 weeks ago, I was thinking if the numbers stayed good, we should be, you know, go back full attendance and, you know, dive back in and make it work. But all the reading I've done and all of the stuff I've seen, I have to concur with what Charles is saying. I think the hybrid is the way to go. Nothing's ideal right now. But amongst the bad options, it's the least bad, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would agree, Tim. You know, there's a few things. You know, initially the CDC guidelines that recommended reopening of schools talked about 6 feet between students and students wearing masks and regular cleaning. And I think, and our, your team has done a remarkable job of, Carl and everyone else of putting that together. But the logistics of putting kids back 100% and teachers back 100% into those buildings, I think is really going to put us, at risk. And like we've even seen stories just in the last couple of days about schools down south that are starting to reopen. And granted, they have higher rates of infection down there and are not taking things as seriously. But the best we can do is to sort of implement those guidelines in a way that we can actually make happen. And I think a hybrid really allows for that. And I totally get, I mean, if this were 10 years ago, for me, it would have been very different. I have older children now, and I totally understand this is going to be such a hardship for families that need childcare, and there's no getting around that. That's going to be tricky for everybody. But another thing to look at too, I think a couple of days ago in the Hartford Courant, there was a story, 3 of the biggest employers in this state, Aetna, Raytheon, and somebody else, they're all going full distance until the end of this year. And I don't understand why, I understand why people want schools to be fully reopened, but nothing in this state is fully reopened right now. Everything is at 50% reopening. And I think to put a bunch of kids and teachers in that situation is just inviting disaster. The hybrid model, the last thing I'll say about why I think that's such a good idea, I would love to be optimistic and, middle of October, we're all gonna be back to normal and back in our schools and everything. But the reality is probably, I would guess, that we're gonna see a resurgence of it. And if you can get kids and teachers in for 6 weeks and kind of get everybody, on board with how distance learning is going to look, I think we're going to be in much better shape. Because I thought Portland, you and your team, did a remarkable job of putting together distance learning, but it was kind of thrown together, and I think for a lot of teachers and families, it was kind of out of the blue. And for us to have some time where we can figure out how to make it work and sort of iron out some of the kinks, I think will make this much more feasible. I mean, I said is the best of the bad options. So I'm into that.
I have to say that was some of the comments at the reopening committee were along those same lines, Chris, that, while it's not the best, it does give a little bit of the benefits of each to the kids in terms of the social emotional gains that they make being in school and offering more protection health-wise, and also help with any transition if we do have to go back to full distance learning. Yeah. It won't be as much of a change.
The childcare situation, I see a comment about that, and I've had some people talk to me about that. We're going to have a hard time regulating that. We're going to expose kids to other, I don't know, there's no good way to do that, because kids are going to be in lots of different childcare situations, and that's going to be a real issue. I really wish there was some way that we could do testing, which is what a lot of places that are reopening are doing, because I think that testing and contact tracing are going to be key to making this work.
I think contact tracing is key. And in smaller groups, you're able to do that. If somebody does become ill, you can know who they've been in contact with. One of the things that I have seen recently, and I know that it's gone back and forth, but the information is that children, although they may not be ill from the COVID-19, are also more apt to be carriers and infectious agents of COVID-19. They tend to have more of the virus in their nasal passages, from what one of the doctors had said on CNN or MSNBC. And so they may not be ill, but they are certainly carriers. And so by keeping them in smaller groups, we're reducing that possibility that they will acquire more of the infection. So I'm for the hybrid at this point. I think that there's too many pluses to doing it.
Now, I had one last comment, and the reason why I was saying what I was saying is because I have a real concern with the distance learning part, just because of what I experienced in the spring, and I know we got thrown into it and it was a disaster. I'm just hoping that I'm not comfortable that we have a plan where these students are going to learn and kind of keep the pace, 8 o'clock in the morning to the afternoon distance learning. Maybe I'm wrong, but, a lot of our students fell behind for the first half of this year. And we don't want them to keep falling behind because the distance learning aspect is not working. That's my only comment.
I think that's something that,
I'd love to talk a little bit about that, and I'll be brief. I think that maybe, if you want me to keep going, I will. Otherwise, this would be a great way for me to update you going forward. But I just want to give you a sense of the work that started yesterday, today, and is going to continue tomorrow. I've worked with really talented educational leaders in my life, but nothing like what I'm working with now. And I say the same for teachers. What I'm seeing our teachers and our school leaders put together now, Dave is going to knock our socks off. It is, I would literally give us an A+ for what we were able to accomplish in the spring. If we repeated what we did in the spring and the fall, I would give us a D-. We are headed for another A+ in the fall. I shared with you 2 slides in terms of how we're communicating what our expectations for students are going to be and how we're communicating what our expectations for teachers are going to be. And I also shared with you the daily schedule that kids are going to encounter when they're in person, when they're on the distance learning day Wednesdays, and when they're remote learning. We have a structure now that isn't going to be as great as all in person, but it's going to be pretty darn close. I am really proud of the work that I'm seeing happen now. And again, I would love to spend an hour with you going over all of these details. I really wish I could have recorded some of the PD we did yesterday and today, but what you are going to see the Portland teachers accomplish with our students over the next 6 weeks, I think is going to be truly stellar.
Good.
Well, I think that's what sold me on the hybrid was when I saw the class schedules and the expectations completely spelled out. That was the part that was missing in the spring was we went to distance learning so quickly that the expectations were sort of evolving as we learned that we couldn't do a whole day of classroom instruction in the way that we do it in the brick and mortar building. And I think that this really did it for me, that it's so well thought out that we are going to make sure the kids get what they need.
One little concern that I have about hybrid, what I noticed just in the elementary school with 4.5 hours of synchronous learning, I mean, that sounds fantastic until you have multiple children using the same internet server all day long. So that's a concern in my house. I mean, 3 children and a husband still working from home, and I know other families can have even more kids than I do. It's kind of hard to picture everybody on the same bandwidth at the same time. Do you have any plans to help mitigate that for folks?
That's an excellent question. So part of what we are getting feedback from the state in terms of the additional funding is for technology. Now, Portland is in a better place because we've been one-to-one for several years now, but I have put in for and requested a large number of additional hotspots. So we are going to reach out to first those families that say they don't have stable internet access, period. But then we will prioritize families that need enhanced connectivity in their homes and make sure that families have everything they need for that distance learning day and the remote days. And of course, God forbid, if we had to go back to distance learning. So we're going to work on that from day one.
So Charles, your firm recommendation to us now is that we would open with the hybrid model, and then we would do that through until the Columbus Day weekend, at which point, if numbers being as they are or better, we would move on from there to full day,
yeah, so let me be
full return to school.
Recommendation is that we open school in person, that
Right.
we run from September 1st until October 9th in a hybrid.
Yep.
and that the last week of September, we make a decision about what the Tuesday after Columbus Day looks like. And the numbers go above 25 per 100,000 at any point, I would close schools and we would go to distance learning.
All right. I would just make a motion that we do exactly that. That as a board, we support you. I mean, it sounds like it's not our call to make that decision anyway, but that we support your decision, in just as you worded it there.
Yeah, I would love that show of support, and I also want to add that I don't think the first 4 days of school need to be half days anymore.
Right, I was going to mention that, but
one of them.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Wait, can Charles finish what he was saying about the half days first?
Yeah, so my recommendation would be that Tuesday, September 1st be a full day for Group A. Wednesday, September 2nd be a full day for Group A. Thursday, September 3rd be a distance learning day for everybody while we clean. And that Friday, September 4th be a full day for Group B. The reason I'm recommending that we not have those half days anymore is because I don't want to jam up the two groups. If Group A has 2 half days and Group B has a full day and a half day, that will already throw off the pacing that we're trying to develop. So I think with the reduced numbers, we can do the full day. One catch, if it gets too hot, I'm going to call a half day.
Okay.
You have to be aware of that. If it's a day like today, it's going to be I'm going to make it a half day because kids in masks in classroom, even in the small numbers, I think is brutal.
Okay, so Tim has made a motion to support the recommendation of the superintendent to open in the hybrid model through at least Columbus Day. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Charles, I would like to say that although this would not be my personal preference, I absolutely do support your recommendation. I know 100% that you are incredibly thoughtful, that you research everything that you do, and that you are making this decision in the best interest of our children and families and staff. So I do support the decision.
Can you just extend that to the reopening committee too?
And thank you to the reopening committee as well.
I would echo that and yes, and absolutely acknowledge your effort and the reopening committee's effort in making this plan. I still have pretty serious concerns about the safety of our students and the hybrid model, things we might not be seeing necessarily. But I fully support all the work that you put into this and will support your decision.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, Board of Education retreat. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know, Charles, did you want to try to pick a date?
I would love to. I think we have a lot to cover in a retreat. You know, I do think a retreat would be a great time for us to get back to our core values and belief statement. We sort of left that hanging out there. I do want to cover that. I also think a board retreat to set the goals that we've talked about. I want to, you know, I know I've spoken with each of you and we've identified the 5 goals. I want to come back to that and talk about some objectives for those goals. And of course, one of those goals being an incredibly important topic surrounding equity and social justice and how we're going to move this community in that direction. So I would welcome the idea of getting back together for a retreat to talk about core values and beliefs goals and as part of the goals discussion, a discussion about equity in Portland.
So I understand, Charles, so we're taking responsibility for the town of Portland to change, or are we focusing on the school? I mean, more the Board of Education, and I know our view, you know, obviously as individuals is beyond that, but are we trying to shape a different outcome for the whole town?
No, I think our locus of control is what happens in the classrooms. I think that's where we would, you know, maximize our discussion.
Right, right.
As far as a date, I'm open anytime, anywhere, you name it.
So we have regular meetings scheduled on September 1st and 15th. And it sounds like we might, I don't know, when's Labor Day, the 7th?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to be out the week of the 24th, August 24th. So I don't know what that first week in September looks like, although we already have a meeting on the 1st. Should we maybe go in later into the month? What do you think?
Why don't we do sometime around the, I don't know, would this be an evening meeting, or are we thinking about a Saturday morning or something? I mean, how much time do we want to spend doing this?
Oh.
I think an evening is better.
How are you guys looking the day after Labor Day? That's the evening, maybe 6 o'clock, September 8th. Just throw it out there.
Sure, that sounds good.
That's fine.
So I have 6 p.m. Day after Labor Day, which is September 8th.
That works for me.
All right. Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, no, that's fine for me.
That's fine.
That's good.
6 p.m.?
Is this going to be a conversation that you're going to lead, Charles, or are we looking to bring in somebody again from an outside group, or is this mostly going to be a discussion that you'll facilitate?
I think I'd like to run this one with you. Start with core values and beliefs, and then board goals, and then see how it evolves from there.
I think that's a good.
Yeah, we really do need to bring some closure to the core values and beliefs. The portrait of the graduate discussion.
Right.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports. Curriculum? Lauren?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. Policy?
We met tonight, and we have 2 more dates that we could potentially meet. We're discovering that policy and what we have to do, we don't want to overload ourselves with policies, and right now we're going to let a couple of things sit till we see what the need is going forward with the reopening of school. But we will be adding some things to like a crisis management plan, as opposed to creating new policies which will only apply to pandemic situations. And I think that's the smarter way to go. And so we have more meetings and more discussions to come.
Personnel. We haven't, we should probably schedule another subcommittee meeting to take a look at those contracts. I don't know if I guess we'll have to talk about scheduling something if there's a need in the next week or so to look at any contracts or MOUs or anything that comes up now that the decision has basically been made as to how we're going to be starting the year. So stay tuned, personnel people.
Yeah, and an update on that. I am, now that the decision is made, I am Google CEA president of Portland, and we have an MOU framework that we've been starting to talk about, but now that we know what we're doing, we can put some things on paper, and that's definitely a personnel committee discussion.
Okay, good. Buildings and grounds, there's some brewing going on there.
There's a meeting on September 15th to review the sightlines plan. Carl is organizing that.
And that's just the subcommittee, right?
That's just subcommittee.
And it'll be coming up for the full board maybe in October, early October? Okay. All right, Conservation and Renewable Task Force?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. CREC Liaison?
CREC's next meeting is September 16th. They did have an emergency meeting, but I had no power and didn't know about it until after the fact. I can't find what it was about, but I'm imagining just reopening schools. So as soon as I find out, I'll let everybody know if there's anything
Okay.
that's
Selectmen?
changing for us.
Nothing significant.
Couldn't hear you, Dave.
Nothing significant.
Okay. All right. Audience of citizens.
So our first question is from Autumn, and I'm going to unmute her.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Autumn. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Autumn. We need your last name.
Awesome. Autumn Church. I live on Main Street,
What number, Main?
374.
374?
Yes,
We just need that for the minutes. Thank you.
no problem. So my son is supposed to attend Gildersleeve this year for second grade. I'm a little concerned that nothing's been talked about when it comes to distance learning. Nothing was discussed as far as special education. Not a lot has been discussed as far as appropriate face coverings. I spoke to Ryan Waldstrom, who expressed that face shields are not acceptable forms of coverings. For children that wear glasses, masks are very difficult for them, and that's something that my son actually has is a mask. So, like, can I get an overview of special education and distance learning and special educations for distance learning students?
Okay. So, Autumn, I just want to explain the policy of the board and the way that our meetings are set up. We do take comments from citizens. I'm going to suggest that we don't respond directly during our meeting. We certainly take every comment into consideration. And I think if you have specific questions regarding your son, that Mr. Wallstrom would be the person for you to reach out to in terms of looking for answers to those
Definitely. I think they're just more exemplifications of like things that I feel like are not being considered. You know, I think having some form of conversation included into distance learning, since it is an option. You know, I just didn't hear any of that. All I heard was hybrid or full in person.
Thank you for your concerns. Any other comments?
AMZCL.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Our next question is from AMZCL. We're going to unmute them.
Okay. Our next speaker, if you could give us your name and address for our minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Adrian Clemens from 130 Rose Hill Road. And my question was just a clarification question about the data presented for the Chatham Health District positive numbers. Where is that data actually coming from? Is that collected by the Chatham Health District? Or is it collected by the state? Where's the denominator of that coming from?
I think that information is available on the school's website, and the numbers that Dr. Britton provided to us this evening aren't there yet. They will be tomorrow. So you can take a look at those. I think it's explained specifically in there. Any other comments?
Our next question is from someone with the name of iPhone Zoom. Oh, hold on, they just left. So we'll go to the next person. Our next question is from someone named Jen, so I'm going to unmute them.
Okay. Full name, please, and address? Okay.
Okay, we're going to skip that person for now. Our next question is from someone named Lori, who is not there right now, so we will skip them. Next from Jennifer, also not there. Yeah. Okay. We're going to read a few questions that we got from the people who were not there. From the person with the name of iPhone Zoom, we have, can you speak to the critique that the AA/BB model is actually the most dangerous due to the number of kids attending various daycares around the region and therefore cross-contaminating cohorts?
I think that's already been addressed by Dr. Britton.
It has, yeah.
Our question from Lori says, has anyone consulted pediatricians in the area? She says their pediatrician advised that they are seeing much less spread from child to child. The few cases they are seeing have predominantly been from an adult to a child, and she was wondering if that was considered.
Okay. So the hard part here is
Right, we don't.
This isn't a town hall. I mean,
Right, we're not going to answer.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, we're looking for concerns, comments on the plan. I think a lot of this information is available in the plan.
So I think, let's clarify one thing for anybody who's, it's not like we don't want to answer. I mean, I'm chomping at the bit. I would love to.
Right.
What I would encourage people to do, if you have questions like that, cbritton@portlandct.us. Email me your questions and I will respond to you. But as part of a board meeting, we don't engage in a back and forth discussion. That isn't sort of like a town hall. We're kind of agenda driven. So we'll take the comments, but if you have specific questions about anything that's happening in public schools, can you put that in the chat, cbritton@portlandct.us, and that way, you know, people don't feel like we're not responsive to them. I want people to email me or the building principals so I can answer questions. This isn't the time for it, though.
Somebody just did a chat comment that they want to speak. Diane Lopez.
Diane Lopez should be unmuted.
Says it's under Cameron.
Right.
Oh, under Cameron.
I see Diane under her own name.
She's on witness protection, maybe.
I have tried to unmute Diane Lopez, and there's no one named Cameron in the chat, so I'm not sure. There is.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Okay, she's unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, Diane.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I have two questions, and I know you guys can't answer, but it's something to think about.
can we have name? Is it Diane? Diane Lopez?
I know you guys can't answer, but it's something to think about. What does the nursing staff look like? Diane? Right. Can you hear me? Diane Lopez. I know you guys can't answer, but it's something to think about. What does the nursing staff look like?
Diane,
Right. Can you hear me?
mute your YouTube window.
What does the nursing staff look like? Diane?
Like when you call a radio station.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she must have the YouTube going in the background.
Yeah, that's why we're hearing you twice. You should unmute her so she can try again with her YouTube window muted or silenced.
we tried to unmute Diane again. Your computer would work better. But
It sounded like her question had to do with nursing resources. And I know that was in the plan too. There was information on how the nursing would work in the isolation rooms and whatnot.
Thank you, yes.
Oh, we can hear you now, Diane.
Oh, you're back.
Okay, yes, it was on nursing. What will the nursing look like, and will there be additional staff? And my other question is, when will we know what the cohorts look like? And I apologize, I was trying to get on 2 computers to ask my questions.
Again, Diane, please email the building principal where your children attend, whether if it's Valley View, Jessica Bruin, if it's Gildersleeve, Brian Wallstrom, if it's Brownstone, Allison Hine, middle school, Chuck Hershon, and high school, Kate Wilson. They can give you specific help.
Perfect, thank you.
And the online plan is divided up between, each of the schools has their own section in here, so.
Thank you very much.
Any other?
I don't think so. Most of these are questions where.
Oh, Diane Lopez, we never got her address for the minutes. I just saw a note here, I
That's
think.
all right, we can find it. They'll
22
find
Old
it.
Carriage Road.
Ah, there you go.
So again, we're hearing from the facilitators of our meeting that there are questions, but in terms of audience of citizens, there's more comments there. If you have specific questions, please email me or the building principals. We'll respond to those questions individually. But otherwise, the whole plan is posted on the website. The videos for the Zoom town halls, the recordings are also on the website, and a podcast that I made are on the website. A lot of the questions about distance learning and hybrid model and how those cohorts will be selected and who you can request in your cohort. A lot of these questions that are coming up in the chat are answered in the Zoom town hall, in the recordings of the podcast I recorded. And if you're not interested in spending the hour watching or listening to those, I completely understand. Email me and I will respond specifically to those questions. But I want to make sure people don't feel like we're not responsive to the questions. It's just the time and place isn't now to engage in those discussions. Good.
Okay,
Actually, Rich A would like to make a comment.
okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The question I had, and I would like on the board as well as the opening committee and all those involved. And thank you specifically to Ryan Wallstrom. He was amazing to talk to on the phone, took his time, was patient, and answered a lot of the questions I had. I can't help but think, and I've attended all these Board of Ed meetings, and a lot of the times the same kind of questions are brought up. And I'm sure your principals have answered the same questions repeatedly. Is there a way, or I'm just saying, could it be possible that a lot of these questions or the commonly asked questions are put on as an FAQ type page on the Portland page, so that people that couldn't attend the meetings, I mean, they're long and lengthy. I find them interesting, but not everybody has the time to sit through them or to even replay them or read through those documents, but they have. I am sure you have found there are common questions that continually come up. And I didn't know if there was a way to maybe summarize those, ask your principals, have it summarized and put on one page somewhere. Just the thought.
Could we get your name, please?
Jennifer Augusta, Agosta, 29 Michelle Drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any others?
Colleen McMecken would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Colleen McMeegan, 5 Rainer Drive. I guess my first comment is taking away those half days is detrimental because you gave us you sent us those 4 or 6 weeks ago, and a lot of parents have planned that. And now 2 weeks out, you're saying, oh no, we're not going to do it now. So I think that's something you really have to take into consideration. If you're going to take away those half days, it's something that a lot of parents have already made plans around those half days. And that's something I think we need to really think about. My second comment is I have actually emailed Ryan Wallstrom, and I did also email you, Dr. Britton, about what the online learning would look like. And I still haven't actually gotten an answer about what it would look like. I do work for a different school district, so I do need to know when my child is going to need to be online specifically and when she's not. So those are my 2 concerns. And I know you can't answer me, but those are my 2 concerns.
Colleen, I didn't hear your last name. Can you spell it for me?
It's McMeekan, McMeken.
McMeken.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That it? Okay. Thank you all for your comments. Board of Ed comments.
I would just make a comment about agenda items. I spoke to Charles about this briefly, but when we've had a couple of things that were mentioned to be put on the agenda in the past, and they haven't been. The discussion about the board coming together to meet in person and kind of pros and cons and where we, at what point we might think about changing that. And then there was the discussion about the article in the River East about equity and treatment of students, minority students. And I know from talking to Charles, there was some thoughtfulness put into not putting those on the agenda in the last couple of meetings because of some of the other weighty issues that we were dealing with. But I just, as a board member, I would want, if there's a request and, for items that be addressed back to the board to say, we're not going to put this on because of whatever. So that at least we know that there was some consideration given to whether an item goes on the agenda, and we can plan for the future.
Oh, Charles did send an email out indicating that. I can't hear you, Tim. Why?
You can't hear me?
Not at the end there. Sorry.
Tim, what I'll do is
I don't think I had a big finish or a flare. It was just it was just that we should be given some kind of information, feedback, I guess you could say, on that. And I did see somebody commented on an email Charles sent out, and I apologize. I've been on the road for a number of days, and I'm not home now, but I didn't see one. Although I did, have that conversation with Charles. We did talk about, something coming out that would indicate that, we're looking at these. But when was that email come out? Because I don't see it.
Monday. Charles responded. He and I spoke. We're going to talk about in-person meetings probably at one of our September meetings. And the equity conversation in terms of the article that appeared in the River East is going to be part of what we address beginning at our Board of Ed retreat. Probably not going to finish the conversation there, but I think that's it would put the conversation a little bit more in context.
When you say Monday, you mean like yesterday? Monday, because today's Tuesday, or was it last month? You're saying a week ago Monday?
No, it was yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Both things will be coming up on future agendas.
Right. Well, and that's as it should be, in my opinion. But and I guess I would just comment that my hope is that going forward that would continue to be the case, that we would get that feedback and not have to make a special request to get that feedback.
We've talked about requesting that items be included on the agenda before, and there needs to be some consensus of the board that the items want to be addressed by the board as a whole. I know that there was a consensus regarding a discussion around having in-person meetings. There's just been a lot going on, and it will be addressed in September.
Right. So I just apologize because I'm looking at my email here. I don't see any email from Charles that came out yesterday about,
It was
there.
It was in his response to the Board of Ed Friday highlights email.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, so it was okay, yeah. It was a response to a previous email and,
Also, there's a bylaw 9323, Tim, which talks about the agenda construction and meeting materials. And so requests have to be made to the board chair.
and
so
frankly,
that-
Meg, thank you. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that.
Oh, good,
And they
okay.
were made to the board chair. We made them in meetings openly. So that was, again, since it came out as a response to a different email, it doesn't show up, at least didn't show up to me as a new email. And I still don't.
Okay.
I still don't see it.
Comments?
I guess I would like clarification. I don't know if now is the correct time, but on that policy, because my understanding was that there were at least 3 of us, if not 4, who did request that it be an agenda item. So how many of us need to request an item to be on the agenda in order to get it on the agenda?
My comment was there needs to be a consensus of the board that it's an issue that the board would like to visit. And it is going to be on an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily have to be the next agenda.
Gotcha.
Right, and I think that's the thing, though, is like, what agenda it goes on. And I think the whole notion, I would just make a second comment then on this idea of consensus. I mean, consensus is basically everybody agrees. So are we saying nothing ever gets on the agenda unless 7 people agree that it would be?
Is that how it's worked in the past, Tim?
Not always, but...
No, it hasn't always worked that way. It doesn't work that way.
No, but is that a new way we're going to venture forward, where we need 7 people to agree, or no?
Then there would be no sense to put it on the agenda, would there?
Well, to have a discussion, yeah, there would be. If we can't properly have it on an
It's going to be
agenda,
on
we can't
next
discuss
month's
it.
agenda.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other comments? Nothing for executive session tonight. I don't think we have any action item that's for the executive session, I think. All right, so we don't need that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
Take your pick, Meg. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks.
How many people stayed till the end?